Buonasera and welcome to Tortellino Time. The other day I made a papellina lasagna, and when I was putting the ingredients together I showed you a jar of homemade yogurt which I used at the time to make the sauce healthier and complementing the bechamel sauce and some of the cheese. Today I'm going to show you how I make the yogurt. This is natural yogurt and it contains live bacteria, probiotics, which are excellent for the health of our gut. Think of your gut as a garden, and the job of the probiotics is the same as the gardener, to keep the weeds, the bad bacteria, under control. Also, these yogurts are absolutely packed with calcium, proteins and vitamins, which are excellent for dense bone structure, muscles repair, but also energy production. Also, by making your own yogurt at home, you can control the level of fat, so you can choose to use skimmed, semi or whole milk. I will be using whole milk today. I'm using a yogurt maker. Here is mine, and this one will make 8 jars. They measure, when full, 180 milliliters here. So the quantity I'll be making today is 1.5 liter approximately. We purchased ours about 4 or 5 years ago and we paid £20. They still make them, and I think they retail of about £40 today, but you can pick them up anything from £30 to £100, and also you can pick them up to make 6 or 8 or 4 depending on what your needs are. And before we start, we always make sure that all of our equipment is bone dry, especially the glass jars on the inside, and clean. You do not need to sterilize them, it's not necessary as the bacteria will take care of it, but it is really important that they are dry. So let's make a start. And I very much start with some yogurt. So whenever we do make yogurt, we always leave half a jar as a starter for the new batch. And this is the equivalent of a good couple of dessert spoons. So effectively, as we make yogurt, the last jar is what we use, or half of the last jar is what we use as a starter for the next batch. But once a month, we then refresh the whole thing, and we buy a new pot of natural live yogurt from the supermarket, and we start again. I'll go and clean and dry this so that I've got a full set. In reality, the only real expense of making yogurt at home, assuming you do buy yogurt on a regular basis, is the machine, the equipment. And but you will find that it's so cheap that within 6 months you'll get your money back. This is what we found. This is whole milk. I'll be using whole milk, and I'm going to be pouring 1.5 liters, and on top of the yogurt I just added. I've got a measuring jug in here so I can see, and that is it, 1.5 liters. Both Julie and I make the yogurt, but whenever I make it, I always like to add some essence, and this is the last of my vanilla essence, and it actually gives that extra additional flavor to the yogurt without making it unhealthy. And also in the past I've used almonds as well. I think it's delicious. This is the equivalent of a teaspoon, which I'll be adding now. It's the last of it, but again, as I said, you can use any essence you like. And using a hand whisk, I'm going to mix everything together to ensure that the yogurt, more than the essence, is all combined with the milk. Literally just 20 seconds, enough for the yogurt to dilute with the milk. Now, if you like your yogurt to be nice and thin, you're nearly ready to go, believe it or not. But we like ours lovely and cream and thick. So we add some dry powder milk. But today I want to do a little mini science experiment. So I will be splitting my batch in half. And in half I will be using some powder milk. In the other half I will use none, to see what the outcome is at the end. And I'm now pouring enough milk until I get to the 750 milliliters mark, to ensure that it's half and half. And I'm going to scoop a good spoon of dry milk. This weighs 40 grams, by the way, and I'll add it to the larger jug so that I can give it a good stir. And I will mix it until the powder is totally absorbed. Of course, if I was to make the full 1.5 liters like this, I would have used twice the quantity of powder. And to ensure that my powder is totally absorbed, I'm giving this a very, very good mix. That's it, job done. And I'm almost done, and I'll start with the 4 jars with the milk powder. Very simply, I just fill them up. And if I've done the calculations correctly, there should be enough to fill all 4 to the very top. They would be okay as they are, but we like ours to be full to the top, so I'm topping them up with more milk. And these jars are really good. They've got this excellent cap and plastic which hermetically seal them beautifully like this. And they're ready to go in my machine, so I'll put them on the right hand side. So right hand side means powder there. And I'll move on to the second batch, the ones without the powder. And here is my last one. And I'll move them to the left hand side so that I know what is what. Perfect. This little machine comes with a very handy lid, so that goes on top. I think of this machine like a mild mini oven. I will be plugging it in the mains in a moment. I'll be setting it to a temperature of 40, that is 40 degrees, for 8 hours. Once the milk reaches a temperature of 40 degrees, the yogurt will act as a starter and the bacteria will all of a sudden wake up and they will consume the lactose in the milk, producing a lactic acid. And this acid causes the milk proteins to coagulate, forming a lovely creamy texture that we know as yogurt. So I've just plugged in my machine and I now need to set the temperature to 40, which I'll do now. And I'll press on start and it will automatically default to 8, which is the number of hours we'll be on for. And I did tell you it was very easy, so I'll leave them on my worktop overnight. It is now 10 o'clock, so it will be 6 o'clock when they're ready. When I come downstairs tomorrow, I'll show you how I make my breakfast. But before I go, I'll start breakfast now because we always start breakfast the night before. I'll show you what to do and then tomorrow I can complete it. We have a very healthy breakfast and we use muesli, and I'm going to be measuring one of these cups. They weigh approximately 40 grams in some breakfast bowls. Here, and if I show you, it's a 1/4 of a cup. It's a 60 milliliters, but the weight of this is 40 grams. Julie is always on the right. I am always on the left. Julie doesn't like a lot of milk, so I'll just give her a little, enough to, like that. Is that enough, Julie?
Yeah.
Okay. I like it more milky, so mine is on the left. I'm going to put a little bit more than Julie's, like so. Julie is always blue, so we know who is who. And I am always the clear one here. And the reason why I put this on top is to ensure that no odors from the fridge will get in the milk and the muesli. And also it's quite reassuring because by the time I come downstairs, if I had a bad night's sleep, there's a little smiley face waiting for me. And this will go in the fridge overnight, and what it will happen is that the muesli will absorb all of the milk, and by the morning will be this lovely creamy consistency, and then I'll show you tomorrow morning what they look like and how I finish breakfast. So good night, see you tomorrow.
Buongiorno, it is just past 6 o'clock, although it looks like the middle of the night as it's still very dark outside. I'm talking a little bit quieter as someone is still asleep. So the yogurts are done and I'm going to switch them off next. So I'll disconnect it from the power. And I'll take a very quick look before I put them in the fridge. On the ones with the powder, I have decided to put some sellotape on top and a little mark, because when they go in the fridge it'd be very difficult for me to distinguish which one is which. And that's my fourth. Now let's take a look at one which has got the powder in, and they're still nice and warm. Clearly they just finished fermenting, and you can see that they're set. There is a little bit of water on the top, which is very normal, and yeah, they look okay. I'll place the lid back on. Let's take a look at one without the powder, so remove the lid a little bit more careful. Yeah, they have set, but you can already see that they are a little bit more liquidy and watery, so they will set a little bit more when I put them in the fridge as they're still very warm. So I'll put the lid back on. And I'm moving them back in a container before they go in the fridge. One thing I do notice, by the way, and that is quite fascinating, is that as they coagulate, you can see there is the odd bit of air pocket, and once they set, that will be even more visible. I'll show you in a few hours' time. And by the way, were you to make them lasting a night like I did, you don't need to be up at 6. The reason why I'm up is because I'm up early every day. I'll be doing some editing of videos in a little while. They can stay in your kitchen inside your little yogurt maker for a good couple of hours at room temperature before they need to go in the fridge. However, that is on the assumption that your house is at a normal temperature. Mine is about 18 degrees at the moment and the heating hasn't come on. If you've got a very, very warm house above, say, 21, 22 degrees, maybe you should actually put them in the fridge quicker, because the bacteria will continue fermenting and eventually they will spoil your yogurt. So a couple of hours, as long as your house is not steaming hot, will be good. So I'm now going to do some editing and I'll see you at breakfast. Ciao, ciao.
Welcome back. 3 hours on and I'm ready to make some breakfast. But before I go there, I wanted to show you the difference between the two type of yogurts. Here is the one with the powder, the milk powder. And I did say that I was going to show you the air pockets. You can see that actually it's quite dense now, especially because it has been in the fridge. And actually I've discovered something. The one without the powder hasn't got any. So clearly it must be an effect of the milk powder that creates those air pockets. Anyway, let's remove the lid and take a good look. So this is the yogurt. I'm going to show you if I just turn it upside down. See, oops, overflown. But you can see that it's got a nice dense nature, and it is absolutely perfect. I should be able to do a better job with this one because it's going to be more liquidy. Let's have a look. Yes, I can see that it comes out in a more controlled manner. Gosh, I did make a mess, but you can see this is nice and dense and this is more liquidy. It doesn't make any difference to the taste, it's more about the texture really. And I looked it up, how much we pay for a box of milk powder. It's about a couple of pounds, 340 grams, and it lasts us about a month roughly, and it adds about 5p additional cost to each pot of yogurt. So it's not too prohibitive, but as it doesn't make any difference to the taste, if you prefer it more liquidy, just drop it. We're thinking of doing that because we then put milk anyway. But more importantly, time to make some breakfast, and I'll start by making Julie's first. And last night I mentioned that the milk would have been absorbed by the cereals, and you can see that in Julie's case it's lovely and dense. Mine is going to be a little bit more liquidy, but that is through choice, of course. We tend to have one pot between us, and the first thing I do is to apply some of the yogurts, and I'll cover the entire base with it, which is about 4 dessert spoons, so that'll give me a good base to start with. Both Julie and I, by the way, are very keen in having a good breakfast. It sets you for the day. Next is a banana, and we keep our bananas in this banana bag, which is actually lined up, I'll show you in this camera, with this paper, which is plastic actually. Not too dissimilar, if not identical, to the same material you have when you buy freezer bags. Also, to ensure that they do last longer, we put a little cling film at the end here. I'm not sure how effective it is. This is one of Julie's tips, but we do it. Why not? It doesn't harm. Anyway, I will use a banana for both Julie and I. And I always think that presentation with food is quite important. It doesn't make any difference to the taste, but I like to play, and I'm cutting the bananas diagonally in approximately 3 millimeters each piece. So I'll reserve half for me, and I'm going around the edge of the bowl, covering it with banana slices. Bananas are a great fruit to have for breakfast. They are high in potassium, so they're great for the heart, but because also they got natural sweetness, they give you a quick energy boost from natural sugars. Blueberries next. Any fruit which is dark in color, or even vegetables like aubergines, they are packed with antioxidants which are great in reducing inflammations. Also, blueberries have got lots of vitamin C and fiber, which is great for your digestion system and also for your immunity. And as an addition to our breakfast, we have a small handful, just like this. And by now you'll have grasped that this is just not a normal breakfast. This is a breakfast fit for queens and kings. The muesli I used, they've already got a few mixed nuts, but I like to complement our breakfast with some additional nuts, and I'm using some almonds today. And almonds are a great source of healthy fats, vitamin E and magnesium, and they help you in keeping you a healthy heart, but also healthy brain, and make you feel fuller for longer. And the very last ingredient, then I promise there is nothing else, it's a tablespoon of mixed seeds. And this is a combination of pumpkins, sunflower and chia seeds. And I'll just sprinkle it on top like this. Sunflower seeds are very high in vitamin E and they're very good for skin health. Pumpkin seeds are very high in zinc and magnesium, and the chia seeds are also very high in omega-3, and so it's a perfect combination of 3 types of seeds for a very healthy breakfast. And now is Julie's breakfast finished, but I'll put a little cover back on with a smiley face as Julie has gone to an exercise class, so this will be ready for her when she returns. And don't worry, I'm not going to show you all again with mine, but I just wanted to show you, because I put a little bit more milk in mine, you can see that it's a little bit more liquidy. And by the way, we use semi-skimmed milk when we consume milk generally, but we use whole milk for yogurt because it's higher in fat, and that is good fat, and also because it's a little bit tastier. But you can also make it with semi-skimmed milk if you wish. However, if you think that cow's milk is not supposed to be really for human consumption, if you're using anything rather than whole milk, or even semi-skimmed milk or skimmed milk, by the time you remove the fat, you've kind of almost removed all of the goodness from the milk. So that's why, another reason why we use it, and we only use it for the yogurt, and it's delicious. And I just finished making mine as well, which is also ready. It looks very similar to Julie's, but mine is a little bit more liquidy, as I suspected. But before I taste it, I just want to try the yogurt, which is a little bit more liquidy, to see what it's like. Yeah, the taste is identical, but it's more watery, so a good option. And I recommend using this with frozen blueberries. What I do as a treat in summer more than in the winter, I put some frozen blueberries with homemade yogurt, and then when it's hot it acts a bit like ice, and it's really delicious. And you don't need to add, of course, any sugar, because there is an awful lot of natural sugar in all of these, which is incredibly healthy, of course. And I like to mix everything together, so I'm gonna spoil my wonderful art creation, and I always eat mine using a small spoon. I think it lasts longer. Maybe it's a childhood thing. And the yogurt is delicious, breakfast is delicious, as it is every morning. The difference with this batch is that I put the vanilla, and we do not always put the vanilla essence, and you can definitely taste it. So if you make it, try and see that it will add additional flavor. Delicious, make it really healthy, you will live longer, and it's quite cheap if you make your own. Arrivederci, grazie, and buon appetito. Actually, buona colazione, which is have a good breakfast in Italian. Ciao ciao!